Chapter 4. Framing the Narrative. The us versus the problem dynamic. The geometry of conflict. Visualize the standard business negotiation. You are sitting on one side of a conference table. The client or your boss is sitting on the other side. Physically, you are facing each other. You are in opposition. Psychologically, this sets the stage for a battle. It is me versus you. If I want a higher price, you lose money. If you want a faster timeline, I lose quality. Every gain for me looks like a loss for you. This is called a zero-sum game. And this is why most negotiations fail. When you frame a conversation as a battle of wills, human biology takes over. The amygdala activates, defenses go up. The other person stops listening to your logic and starts protecting their territory. To influence someone, you have to change the geometry of the room. You have to move from face-to-face to shoulder-to-shoulder. You need to create a dynamic where it isn't me versus you, it is us versus the problem. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to reframe every conflict. We are going to stop demanding what we want and start inviting the other person to solve a puzzle with us. Communication creates results when you turn an opponent into a partner. The case study, the salary negotiation. Let's look at one of the most difficult conversations in business, asking for a raise. Most people approach this conversation completely wrong. They make it personal. They walk in and say, "I have worked really hard this year. I stayed late, I delivered the project, I think I deserve a 10% raise." Notice the language. I worked, I delivered, I deserve. This triggers a defensive reaction in the manager. The manager is thinking about their budget. They feel pressured. They feel like they have to defend the company's money against your personal request. It becomes a battle between your ego and their budget. Now let's see how a strategic influencer handles this. A high-performing employee, let's call her Sarah, wanted a significant salary adjustment. She didn't talk about her feelings. She didn't talk about deserving anything. She did her research. She found the market rate for her specific role and skill set. She realized she was being paid 15% below the market average. She walked into the meeting and laid a piece of paper on the table. It was a chart showing the industry standard salaries. She sat back and said, "I've been looking at the market data, and it looks like there's a significant discrepancy between the market value of this role and where we are currently priced. This gap is a risk because it makes it hard for us to retain top talent long term. How do we solve this alignment issue?" Do you see the shift? She didn't ask for a raise. She pointed out a market discrepancy. She didn't make it about her bank account. She made it about retaining talent. She didn't say, "Give me money." She asked, "How do we solve this?" The problem was no longer her greed. The problem was the data. Her manager didn't have to fight her. The manager looked at the paper and agreed that the data was the problem. They were now on the same side of the table, figuring out how to fix a budget issue. She got the raise in 48 hours. This is how you win clients and promotions. You remove your ego from the equation and focus entirely on the external standard. The Externalization Framework. This technique is called externalizing the problem. In any high-stakes conversation, there are three entities: you, the other person, and the problem. If you attack the person, they fight back. If you attack the problem together, you bond. Here is how you do this in three common scenarios. Scenario 1, the client price pushback. The adversarial approach: our price is high because we are the best. Take it or leave it. The us versus problem approach: I understand the budget is tight. The challenge is that to get the results you want, the materials cost X. If we cut the budget, we compromise the result. How can we adjust the scope to fit the budget without breaking the project? The enemy is the cost of materials, scope, not you. Scenario 2, the missed deadline. The adversarial approach: you guys are late again. This is unacceptable. The us versus problem approach: we are currently 3 days behind schedule. The bottleneck seems to be the approval process. Let's look at the workflow together. What can we change to remove that friction so the team can move faster? The enemy is the approval process, bottleneck, not the team. Scenario 3, the disagreement on strategy. The adversarial approach, I think your idea is wrong. The us versus problem approach, I see where you're going with that. My concern is that the data suggests the customer won't click that button. Let's look at the user testing results. What does the evidence say? The enemy is the user data, not your opinion.
In every single one of these examples, you are moving the conflict away from the relationship and placing it on a third object, the budget, the timeline, or the data. You guide the conversation by pointing at the third object. You're essentially saying, I am on your team, but this problem is in our way. Help me move it. Implementation, the pronoun shift. To execute this, you need to change your grammar. Adversarial language is heavy on I and you. I need you to do this. You didn't send the file. I can't agree to that. Collaborative language is heavy on we and the. How do we solve this? The timeline is tight. What does the data suggest? This is a subtle psychological trigger. When you say we, you are subconsciously signaling alliance. You're signaling that you are already partners. Try this script the next time you have to deliver bad news. Instead of, I can't deliver this by Friday, say, the timeline is shorter than the production time required to do this right. If we rush, we risk errors. How do we want to prioritize? Speed or accuracy? You are forcing them to make a business decision with you rather than accepting an apology from you. The physical shift. Finally, use your body language to reinforce the frame. If you are in a physical conference room, try to sit next to the person or at a 90-degree angle rather than directly across from them. If you are presenting a document, put the document on the table between you. Point at the document, look at the paper, not at their face when discussing the conflict. This directs the negative energy toward the inanimate object. It protects the relationship. Your next step. Here is your challenge for Chapter 4. Identify one ongoing friction point in your business. Maybe it's a difficult client, a stalled project, or a disagreement with a partner. In your next interaction, do not use the word you when describing the problem. Instead of saying, you are delaying this, say, the delay is caused by. Instead of saying, you aren't paying enough, say, the budget doesn't match the scope. Externalize the enemy. Invite them to fight it with you. Once you master this, you stop having arguments. You start having strategy sessions. But even with the perfect frame, you still need to read the person across from you. You need to know when they are buying in and when they are checking out. You need to read the data that isn't on the spreadsheet, the human data. You mastered the frame. Now you need emotional intelligence.